They laughed when you stayed kind. They mocked you for helping people who could never repay you. But what they never understood, every silent sacrifice, every act of loyalty, every moment you chose goodness over revenge, it was being noticed. Somewhere in the shadows, someone's been watching your good deeds while the world stayed blind to your pain. They saw the nights you almost gave up. They saw the battles you fought without applause. And now the same people who ignored your worth are about to witness what happens when a pure soul stops doubting itself. This isn't weakness anymore. This is power wrapped in silence. People laughed at your kindness because they only understand power when it looks aggressive. They live in a world where manipulation is respected more than honesty, where selfishness is rewarded faster than loyalty, and where pretending to care has become more common than actually caring. So when they saw you helping others without expecting applause, they assumed you were weak. They thought your patience meant you had no strength. They thought your silence meant you had no voice. But what they failed to realize is that real character is built in the moments nobody claps for. Every time you chose compassion over revenge, you were building something inside yourself that fake people could never imitate. Most people only perform goodness when there's an audience watching. They help others so they can post it online. They become generous when it benefits their reputation. They act loyal when it protects their image. But you kept doing the right thing even when nobody noticed, even when people ignored your efforts, even when your kindness was returned with disrespect. That is rare. That is dangerous. Because a person who continues to stay good in a cruel world develops a level of emotional strength that cannot be broken easily. There were moments when you questioned yourself, moments where you wondered if being a good person was even worth it anymore. You watched dishonest people rise faster. You watched selfish people receive opportunities you deserved. You watched people take advantage of your heart and then disappear when you needed support the most. That kind of pain changes people. For some, it turns them cold. For others, it turns them bitter. But for you, it became awareness. You started understanding human behavior on a deeper level. You began seeing who was genuine and who only appeared during convenient moments. The truth is, goodness is often invisible in the beginning. The world rarely rewards silent loyalty immediately. People overlook consistency because consistency isn't loud. It doesn't create drama. It doesn't beg for attention, but over time, patterns reveal everything. Fake people eventually expose themselves because pretending is exhausting. Selfish people destroy their own relationships because they only care about themselves. Meanwhile, the person who stayed authentic keeps growing stronger with every challenge, quietly, patiently, without needing validation from anyone. Every sacrifice you made shaped your mindset. Every time you stayed calm while others tried to provoke you, you gained control over yourself. Every time you resisted becoming cruel after being hurt, you strengthened your discipline. And discipline is more powerful than anger because anger burns fast while discipline lasts forever. The strongest people are not always the loudest in the room. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who endured disappointment after disappointment and still refused to become heartless. People underestimated you because they judged you too early. They saw your kindness but ignored your resilience. They saw your calm nature but never realized how much pain you survived in silence. They never saw the nights where you battled your own thoughts alone. They never saw the emotional weight you carried while still trying to be there for others. And because they didn't see your struggle, they assumed your story was simple. But silent battles create powerful minds. Now something inside you is changing. You no longer seek approval from people who never valued you. You no longer feel the need to explain your heart to those committed to misunderstanding you. You've realized that your kindness was never a weakness to fix. It was a strength to protect. Because staying genuine in a world full of masks requires courage most people don't have. And the frightening part is this: once a person finally understands their value, they become unstoppable. People always confuse silence with weakness because they only recognize strength when it's loud. They think the person shouting the most is the most powerful. They believe aggression means confidence. They assume calm people are fragile simply because they don't react emotionally to every insult, betrayal, or challenge. That's why they underestimated you. They looked at your patience and thought you lacked courage. They saw your restriction and assumed you were afraid. But what they never understood is that controlling yourself takes far more strength than losing control. You stayed quiet while others constantly tried to provoke you. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you understood something they didn't. Not every battle deserves your energy. Weak people react to everything because they need attention. Strong people choose their moments carefully. Every time you walked away from unnecessary drama, people thought they had defeated you. In reality, you simply refused to lower yourself to their level. Silence became your shield while they exposed their own insecurity through noise. There were moments when people tested your limits on purpose. They disrespected you because they believed you would tolerate everything forever. They mistook your kindness for submission. They thought your calm nature meant you didn't notice the lies, manipulation, or hidden jealousy around you. But silent people note everything. In fact, the quietest person in the room is often the most observant. While others wasted energy talking, you were learning, watching, understanding patterns, seeing the true faces people hide behind fake smiles. The truth is, pain taught you discipline. Every betrayal forced you to grow emotionally stronger. Every disappointment sharpened your awareness. You learned how quickly people change when they no longer benefit from you. You learned that loyalty is rare and honesty expensive in a world built on appearances. Those lessons hurt, but they transformed you into someone harder to manipulate. That's why your silence started changing. It was no longer the silence of fear. It became the silence of control. Most people cannot handle silence because silence forces them to confront themselves. That's why they constantly seek distractions, validation, and attention. But you became comfortable being alone with your thoughts. You learned how to survive loneliness without begging people to stay. You discovered that peace is more valuable than popularity. And once someone learns how to stand alone emotionally, they become dangerous to people who rely on controlling others. People also failed to understand how much pressure you carried internally. They only saw the calm expression on your face, never the chaos you learned to manage inside your mind. They never saw the sleepless nights where you fought battles nobody knew about. They never saw how many times you wanted to give up but forced yourself to keep moving anyway. That hidden endurance built a kind of strength that cannot be taught. It can only be earned through suffering. While others chased attention, you were building resilience. While they wasted time proving themselves to strangers, you were quietly improving your mindset. Every painful experience became mental armor. Every setback became another reason to evolve. And slowly, without realizing it, you became emotionally independent. Change is everything. Because once a person no longer depends on external validation, they stop being controlled by fear. Now, the same people who once overlooked you are beginning to feel your presence differently. Your energy changed. Your silence changed. There's confidence in the way you move now because you no longer need to explain yourself. You understand your worth without requiring permission from anyone else, and that unsettles people, especially those who benefited from your self-doubt in the past. The scary thing about silent people is that they rarely reveal how much they've evolved until it's too late. By the time others realize your strength, you've already outgrown their expectations. You've already mastered the pain they thought would destroy you. And now, without speaking loudly, without begging for attention, without proving anything to anyone, you carry a presence that speaks for itself. The world has a strange habit of ignoring people during the process, celebrating them only after the results appear. Nobody notices the lonely nights, the silent sacrifices, the emotional breakdowns hidden behind forced smiles, or the endless self-doubt that nearly destroyed you. People only pay attention once success becomes visible, once confidence replaces fear, once the transformation can no longer be ignored. That's how society works. They mock the struggle but worship the outcome. When you were building yourself quietly, nobody cared. Fighting internal battles, trying to heal from betrayal, rejection, and disappointment, the world kept moving as if your pain meant nothing. People only saw the version of you that looked calm on the outside. They never saw the mental war happening inside your head every single day. They never saw how close you came to giving up. And because they never witnessed the process, they underestimated the result that process was creating. Most people want instant respect without enduring the discomfort required to earn it. They want recognition before discipline. They want rewards before sacrifice. That's why they quit the moment life becomes difficult. But you kept going even when nothing around you suggested things would improve. You kept rebuilding yourself while carrying emotional wounds nobody helped you heal from. That type of persistence changes a person deeply. Pain either destroys someone or reshapes them into something stronger. And slowly, without realizing it, every hardship became fuel for your evolution. The people around you probably doubted you because your progress wasn't loud enough for them to notice. They expected greatness to arrive dramatically. They expected confidence to look flashy. But real transformation often happens in silence. It happens in isolation. It happens during moments where nobody is clapping for you. While others were distracted chasing temporary validation, you were learning patience, learning discipline, learning emotional control, though invisible skills at first, but eventually they create visible power. There's something dangerous about a person who improves quietly. Nobody sees them becoming stronger until the difference becomes impossible to ignore. One day you're overlooked, underestimated, dismissed as ordinary. Then suddenly people notice your mindset changed, your energy changed, the way you carry yourself changed. They begin wondering how you became so focused, so calm, so difficult to shake emotionally. The part where suffering forced you to grow. The truth is, struggle reveals who people really are. Some people collapse the moment life stops being easy. Others spend their energy blaming the world for every setback. But a small number of people use pain as preparation. They absorb every lesson hidden inside disappointment. They become wiser after betrayal, sharper after rejection, more disciplined after failure. And eventually the same obstacles that once caused suffering become the reason they evolve beyond everyone's expectations. What frustrates people most is when someone they ignored begins rising without their approval. Suddenly the person they underestimated no longer seeks validation. Suddenly the person they overlooked becomes confident. Confidence built through suffering feels different because it's real. It's not arrogance. You know how much pain it took to become this version of yourself, so you stop allowing small-minded people to define your value. Now, people are starting to notice the results they once laughed at. The discipline they mocked is becoming visible. The silence they misunderstood is becoming powerful. The emotional strength they ignored is beginning to intimidate them. Because deep down, people recognize authenticity when they see it. They can sense when someone survived battles that should have broken them. And there's something unsettling about watching a person transform pain into power without becoming bitter. The same world that ignored your growth will eventually admire your resilience. The same people who doubted your future will act surprised by your success. But they won't understand the truth behind it. They'll only see the final version of you, never the countless moments where you suffered in silence, just to become strong enough to survive your own reality. Pain changes people in ways the outside world can never fully understand. Not the kind of pain that lasts for a moment, but the kind that quietly follows you through nights nobody knows about. The kind that forces you to sit alone with your thoughts while pretending everything is fine during the day. Betrayal, rejection, disappointment, abandonment, those experiences leave marks deeper than most people realize. And while others assumed your struggles were destroying you, they were actually rebuilding the way your mind sees the world. Before the pain, you probably trusted people too easily. You believed loyalty would naturally be returned. Expected honesty from people who only knew how to pretend. You gave energy to people who secretly benefited from your kindness while offering nothing genuine in return. But suffering has a strange way of removing illusions. It forces you to see people for who they truly are instead of who you hoped they would become. That realization hurts at first because the truth is rarely comfortable. Awareness is power. The people who hurt you may never understand what they created, your instincts. Every betrayal increased your awareness. Every moment of rejection forced you to become emotionally independent. Slowly, you stopped looking at words and started studying actions. You learned that some people only stay close while it benefits them. You learned that attention is not loyalty. You learned that many smiles hide envy and many compliments hide hidden competition. Pain taught you to observe energy instead of trusting appearances. There's a certain kind of intelligence that only comes from suffering. Books cannot teach it. Advice cannot create it. It develops when life repeatedly forces you to survive disappointment. You begin noticing patterns others ignore. You recognize manipulation fester. You sense dishonesty before it fully reveals itself. And because of that, your mindset becomes different from the people around you. While they continue moving carelessly through life, you move with awareness built from experience. At first, this transformation can be lonely. Once your eyes open, it becomes harder to connect with fake energy. Small talk feels empty. Forced relationships feel exhausting. You start protecting your peace because you understand how expensive your mental stability truly is. That doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means you became selective with who deserves access to your heart. People who never experience deep pain often misunderstand this. They call you distant when, in reality, you simply learned the cost of trusting the wrong people. The strongest part of your evolution is that pain didn't turn you completely cold. You still have empathy. You still understand suffering. But now your kindness has boundaries. And boundaries are necessary because without them, good-hearted people get destroyed by selfish individuals. You finally realize that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's survival. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your loyalty, your attention, or your emotions. What makes your mindset powerful now is the balance you developed between emotion and awareness. You no longer react impulsively to everything. You study situations before speaking. You notice intentions hidden behind behavior. And because you've experienced emotional pain deeply, you can recognize fake people much faster than before. That awareness unsettles others because manipulative people depend on emotional blindness to maintain control. Once you begin seeing clearly, their tactics lose power over you. The pain also taught you resilience. You discovered that even after heartbreak, disappointment, and loneliness, you are still capable of surviving. That realization changes a person permanently. Because once someone understands they can survive their worst emotional storms alone, fear begins losing its grip on them. You stop chasing approval. You stop begging people to stay. You stop shrinking yourself just to keep others comfortable. And confidence built through survival feels completely different from fake confidence built through attention. Now there's a calmness in you that didn't exist before. Not because life became easier, but because suffering trained your mind differently. You've seen enough deception to recognize truth faster. You've endured enough pain to value peace more than popularity. And deep down, you understand something most people never will. Sometimes the darkest experiences create the strongest minds. Most people think power has to be loud. They imagine strength, aggression, dominance, constant talking, or controlling everyone around them. They assume the person making the most noise is automatically the most dangerous person in the room. But real power rarely behaves that way. Real power is calm, controlled, silent. It doesn't waste energy trying to convince people it exists. And that's why the calmest person in the room is often the one everyone should pay attention to the most. You learned this through experience. Life forced you to understand. Reacting emotionally to everything only drains your energy. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every unnecessary conflict taught you the value of self-control. While others lost themselves in anger, you began mastering your emotions. That doesn't mean you stopped feeling pain. It means you stopped allowing pain to control your actions. And that level of discipline intimidates people more than shouting ever could. There's something unsettling about a person who remains calm under pressure. People expect emotional reactions because emotional people are easier to predict. They expect anger, panic, frustration, or desperation. But when someone stays composed during chaos, it creates uncertainty. Suddenly, nobody knows what that person is thinking. Nobody knows how far their patience extends. And that unknown makes people uncomfortable. Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates power. The truth is, calm people usually carry the deepest experiences internally that others know nothing about. They've already survived pain that forced them to mature emotionally. That's why small problems no longer shake them easily. While others panic over temporary setbacks, calm people focus on solutions. While others react impulsively, calm people observe first. That ability to think clearly under pressure separates emotional weakness from mental strength. People misunderstood your silence for a long time. They assumed you lacked confidence because you didn't constantly seek attention. They thought your patience meant weakness because you didn't argue over every disrespectful comment. But what they failed to understand is that self-control is one of the highest forms of strength. Weak people need to prove themselves constantly. Strong people already know who they are, so they don't waste energy performing for validation. Your calmness became stronger after suffering changed you. Petty drama loses importance. Fake competition becomes meaningless. You stop needing to win every argument because you realize peace is more valuable than ego. That mindset confuses people who are addicted to chaos. They don't understand how someone can remain steady while everything around them feels unstable. The dangerous thing about calm individuals is that they notice everything while revealing very little about themselves. They observe behavior carefully. They study intentions. They recognize patterns in people's actions. While everyone else is distracted by emotions, calm minds are collecting information quietly. That's why silent people are often several steps ahead mentally. They aren't wasting energy reacting emotionally. They're understanding the entire situation before making a move. And eventually, people begin feeling your presence differently. Your energy becomes heavier, more controlled, more focused. Without saying much, you create impact simply through the way you carry yourself. Confidence built through silence feels different because it isn't dependent on outside approval. It comes from surviving difficult moments alone. It comes from learning how to stand emotionally independent even when nobody supports you. There's also a hidden danger in underestimating quiet people. Most individuals only prepare themselves against visible threats. They watch loud competitors because loudness is obvious. But calm people evolve privately. They improve silently. Nobody notices how much strength they've built until the moment they finally reveal it. By then, it's usually too late for others to catch up. Now your silence carries weight because it's backed by experience. Your calmness isn't innocence anymore, it's awareness. You understand human behavior differently now. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. You know when to walk away and when to stand firm. And the most powerful part of all this is that you no longer need attention to feel valuable. Because once someone masters themselves emotionally, they become harder to control, harder to manipulate, and impossible to break easily. For a long time, people only saw the version of you that was struggling. They saw the moments where you doubted yourself, the moments where exhaustion covered your confidence, the moments where life kept testing you from every direction. Some people pitied you. Some secretly enjoyed watching you fall behind. Others completely underestimated what you were becoming beneath all that pressure. But difficult seasons have a purpose. They either break a person completely or prepare them for a transformation nobody expects. And without realizing it, every painful experience was preparing you for your rise. The truth is, your growth was never meant to happen loudly. While other people chased attention, you were being rebuilt through silence. Every lonely night strengthened your mindset. Every betrayal forced you to understand your worth more clearly. Every rejection pushed you closer to emotional independence. Even the moments that almost destroyed you carried lessons hidden inside them. You just couldn't see it at the time because pain always feels meaningless while you're living through it. Only later do you realize the struggle was shaping your future mentality. There came a point where something inside you changed permanently. You stopped waiting for people to believe in you before believing in yourself. You stopped depending on validation from people who never understood your value in the first place. And once that shift happened mentally, your energy became different, stronger, sharper, more focused. Because confidence built through survival feels far more powerful than confidence built through comfort. Most people never reach this stage because they allow hardship to convince them they are powerless. They surrender too early. They become trapped inside their own fear, bitterness, or self-doubt. But you kept moving. Even when progress felt invisible, you kept fighting battles nobody else could see. That persistence created discipline. And discipline changes everything because disciplined people continue forward, whether they feel motivated or not. They no longer depend on emotions to move. They move because they understand who they are becoming. Now, the same people who once overlooked you are starting to notice the shift. Your presence feels different. Your silence feels intentional instead of uncertain. Your mindset no longer seeks approval from every room you enter. There's confidence in the way you carry pain now because you survived things that should have broken your spirit completely. And deep down, people recognize that kind of strength immediately, even if they never admit it out loud. The most satisfying part of growth is that it happens quietly enough for doubters to miss it completely. People become comfortable underestimating you because they're distracted by the old version of who you used to be. They continue treating you based on outdated assumptions while you evolve beyond everything they expected. And by the time they finally realize how much you've changed, you've already mentally outgrown their opinions. You also stopped fearing loneliness. That changed your entire mindset. Once someone learns how to stand alone emotionally, manipulation loses its power over them. You no longer tolerate fake relationships just to avoid isolation. You no longer shrink yourself to make insecure people comfortable. You understand now that protecting your peace is more important than being accepted by everyone around you. That level of self-awareness creates a dangerous kind of freedom. What makes your rise powerful is that it's built on authenticity. You didn't become stronger by pretending to be someone else. You became stronger by surviving reality without losing yourself completely. Even after betrayal, you still maintained your humanity. Even after rejection, you still carried ambition. Even after disappointment, you still kept moving forward. That resilience separates you from people who collapse the moment life becomes difficult. Now your time is arriving not because luck suddenly appeared, but because the version of you created through suffering is finally ready. Ready to stop doubting your abilities, ready to stop apologizing for your growth, ready to walk into rooms with certainty instead of insecurity. And the same people who once ignored your potential are about to witness something they never prepared for: the rise of someone who turned pain, silence, rejection, and loneliness into unstoppable strength.